Thank you, madam.
Yes, thank you, Mohanji. So this is where we stopped last. I'll just read it the last few lines again so that we have an overlap. So Sri Aurobindo is sharing with us in this canto the secret knowledge, that which is the basis of this existence, but mostly in our ignorance, we are not aware of it. And that is why we suffer. Because if we have even a glimpse of what is going on, we would have at least lesser amount of suffering. At least we will not inflict more suffering upon us. But because we don't know, because the mind, limited conceptual mind from which we work usually, it sees only little, very limited windows, and from that we try to make sense of the whole universe, and that doesn't work. Because even if we get a glimpse of little windows from which we try to understand, it is not really something, a larger view that we could have. So in Savitri, in this canto, he shares the larger view with us, that why is this universe here? What is going on really? And that's why it can really be helpful, even if we don't understand it much, to just have this glimpse of what is going on. Right? So just a second. Yeah, sorry for that. So even if we get a glimpse of what is going on through Sri Aurobindo's words, I think then at least we can choose not to suffer consciously. Knowingly we would not create suffering for us. So it really, really helps to have these glimpses through Sri Aurobindo's words. So he's sharing the play between soul and nature, the play between God and the nature, the two who appear to be different, but they are one. And that's why we have so much of suffering, because I want to follow a spiritual path, but what do I do with the usual life? So as if they appear to be two different roads which are not meeting ever. But here he makes them one. He tells us that they are one. Prakriti, our tendencies, patterns, emotions, thoughts, they are nothing but the manifestation of the one, the supreme one. So they are not disjoint the way it appears. They are not disjoint and anti each other. And slowly, as we realize this truth in our own being, for practical, practically, if we have this realization in us, then we can kind of pour the radiance of the Purusha within on the thoughts and feelings and emotions and the actions and words and whatever is manifested in Prakriti. But in our blindness, we are not able to do that. Although even then, even in our blindness, the Supreme is making use of that. He is evolving through all the movements of Prakriti. And that's why it is a win-win situation for us. We cannot, no matter if I am a really criminal or a sinner, I cannot lose. Because if not in this lifetime, in another, this realization will dawn through the ripening of experiences. So it really helps. That's what I wanted to share, to read these words. He has sold himself into her regal power. So the Purusha, the Supreme Purusha, has completely surrendered to the movements of Prakriti. For any blow or boon that she may choose. Okay, whatever you wish for me, I agree. Okay, you choose anger today for me, I agree. You choose jealousy today for me, I agree. And that's why, when we go into any healing or therapy, we see that the first thing that we have to do is to completely validate whatever we are going through. You have to say yes to all that is happening. Because our suffering mostly lies in saying a no. So I may have anger, but now I am in struggle because I don't want anger. I don't want anger. That creates misery. But when I see anger, to accept that anger is there, that is the first step. Because the universe has already said yes. The awareness has already said yes to anger. That's why anger exists. And who am I to say now, no, you cannot be? So there we create more misery for us. So the first step is to be in acceptance of whatever is happening, not create much obstacle to the flow. And then there may be other processes to go through it. Even in what is suffering to our sense, he feels the sweetness of her mastering touch. So when we are in such a state of consciousness, which is from a deeper level, when we are more understanding wisdom and knowing of the happenings of life, then everything that happens, whether it's pleasure, pain, discomfort, comfort, it is a sweet touch of the mother. Then we don't say, oh mother, you are so cruel, why are you doing this to me? That doesn't happen. Everything in that state of being, when we are, it's a state of consciousness in which this can happen, that all the touches of Prakriti, Divine Mother, they appear as a sweet touch, like, oh wow, like mother's touch on me, whether it's through pain, any discomfort, a challenge, broken relationship, that's mother's touch on me. So then I don't mind it. But as an egoistic consciousness, limited self, I usually mind it. That's where our suffering lies. Even in what is suffering to our sense, he feels the sweetness of her mastering touch. So the soul consciousness is always having a delight in the movements of nature. Always. Whether on appearance it may appear a very destructive kind of a phase. In all experience meets her blissful hands. On his heart, he bears the happiness of her tread. This is again if you can recollect the image of Shiva, is lying down and on his breast, Kali is dancing. And he is rejoicing in that. Because Shiva and Kali are not two, they are one. It's a pact. One cannot say, even if one cannot actually rightly use the word pact, because pact is between two parties. But here the party is one. Shakti has manifested out of Shiva. So he happily enjoys that touch, because it is for the play of that touch that he created, that he manifested Shakti out of himself. So he had delight in that. He still has, as Sri Aurobindo says, that delight is the basis of the existence. But it has been perverted. And now we think that all that we need in life is happiness. So, okay, ice cream makes me happy, run after ice cream. This person makes me happy, run after that person. It's not like that. So it's a perversion that has happened. While delight is absolute delight, there is nothing but delight. While in pleasure, we become addicted, and all kinds of complication happens if we run after pleasure. So there is a difference between pleasure and ananda, or delight, which is the basis of this existence. On his heart, he bears the happiness of her tread and the surprise of her arrival's joy, that she can do anything at any point of time. Very, very unpredictable. Anything can happen. She can absolutely be cruel in one sense. And yet he enjoys that. Shiva, or the Supreme Consciousness, enjoys it. In each event and every moment's chance, he is waiting for the joy of her arrival. So that is where we stopped last. Anything from here? Anyone wants to share any reflection? Okay. So in that case, let's go ahead. Yeah. Anyone who feels ready?
All she can do is marvelous in his sight. He revels in her, a swimmer in her. She, a tireless amateur of her world delight. He rejoices in her every thought and act, and gives consent to all that she can wish. Whatever she desires, he wills to be.
Yes, thank you. All she can do is marvelous in his sight. Every movement of Prakriti in this state of consciousness, one has delight in. When we are in touch with our deeper self, the higher self, then every movement of Prakriti is marvelous. Like, look at what she's able to create. Anything and anything, any movement can happen with the movements of Prakriti. All she can do is marvelous in his sight. He revels in her. He enjoys, really, truly enjoys her presence. He revels in her, a swimmer in her sea, a tireless amateur of her world delight. Now, amateur is a person who is doing something for the hobby of it. He enjoys, for example, I may be amateur photographer. Somebody may be professional photographer, but I am amateur photographer. So what is the difference usually? As an amateur, we are doing things for the joy of it. So I may be an amateur writer or amateur painter, and I'm not yet turned professional. So I'm not earning money out of it, but I'm doing it for the joy of it. And when we do it for the joy of it, then we have that passion, associated with it. That yes, you can run miles if you are an amateur runner, because nothing is stopping you. It's not that the payment comes less and you will stop. Nothing like that. So the payment is not in the picture at all. So he, the Supreme Purusha, he is like an amateur, tireless. He's doing it. He's there with Prakriti for the passion of her, enjoying her, a tireless amateur of her world delight. And he is swimming in her sea, whatever she is capable of manifesting, enjoying just because he loves to be in her presence. Just that is enough. So he's tireless in that passion. He rejoices in her every thought and act. When we look at our thoughts and actions, many a times we become too critical, too harsh. How could I have that thought? How could that action happen through me? And here it's a different state of consciousness altogether. That each thought and act that emerges, one is in a completely aware, conscious state of mind and is able to enjoy and revel in whatever action happens or thought is there. The beauty, just for the beauty of it, the sake of beauty. He rejoices in her every thought and act. And that is why when we begin to know ourselves as awareness, when we are, if one can say, use the word practice, when we are more and more now practicing knowing ourselves as awareness, there is one quality that is associated with that, which is non-judgmental awareness. So if I see a thought, if I see a feeling throughout my day or whatever evening, there is a non-judgmental presence in that. Although it is discerning, but it is non-judgmental. It is not making me superior or inferior if this or that thought is there found in me. Usually the limited mind is always boxing and categorizes. Oh, I have such a positive thought, I must be something good. Oh, I have such a bad thought. Oh, I am such a menial person. So the limited mind is always categorizing. But when we truly take station as the presence of awareness, the quality associated is non-judgmental awareness. It does not judge. He rejoices in her every thought and act and gives consent to all that she can wish. Okay, anger allowed, crime allowed, jealousy allowed, hate allowed. So there will never be a point where he says, no, you cannot do that. Prakriti, this is too much. So that is not happening. So that's the beauty. And I see it connecting with when we know ourselves as awareness. There also we say yes to all that we see in our being. Okay, yes, anger, you are there. I see you. Yes, jealousy, you are there. I see you. So this acceptance is there. And in that acceptance, the other quality is of discernment, which we in Hindi we call viveka. And gives consent to all that she can wish. Whatever she desires, he wills to be. Whatever she desires, he wills to be. So whatever movement wants to manifest, he says, okay, I will become that. no problem, I will become that. Because in every movement we grow. We, as if we can look back at our own life, there may be really ugly movements that we have been through, but it has ripened us, it has matured us. And that's how the Purusha evolves. As we say, psychic being evolves through all the life experiences. Nothing goes in vain. Yeah. Yeah. Anything here? Any reflection? Okay, so please go ahead. Anyone who wishes to read.
Yeah, Monica, I'll read. The spirit, the innumerable one, he has left behind his lone eternity. He is an endless birth in endless time, for finite's multitude in an infinite space. So can I read 4 more lines or it'll stop?
I think we'll stop here because
Yeah.
we do it in little bits. Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you. The spirit, the innumerable one, he has left behind his lone eternity. He is an endless birth in endless time. Her finite's multitude in an infinite space. So the one that only is, when we say there is only one and that is the divine, there is nothing but the divine. And that is also the basis of, say, for example, Advait. When we say Advait, Advaitic Vedanta, or when we talk about that, Dvait is two. And Advait is that which is not two. So they are not also saying one, because the moment they say one, automatically we say that, okay, there must be two. But they are not saying one, they are saying not two. So that also relates to when Sri Aurobindo talks about the two who are one. Advait, because it's the divine only that who he is. There is nothing but the divine. So although we may see enough of cruelty in manifestation in creation, enough of ugliness in creation, but there is nothing but the divine. So one can also a little relax, that there must be purpose. There must be a purpose to things in the larger game, which I don't get to know. So the spirit, the eternal spirit, that which never is born and never dies, the innumerable one, there is no limit to it, to his count. Innumerable one. So he's one also, but he's innumerable. He has left behind his lone eternity. So in the beginning, as we say, there was only Brahm, it was only the divine. And he was all alone, all by himself. There was nothing but himself. So he has left that lone eternity. And he has kind of, if we can say, stepped down into manifestation. He has left behind his lone eternity. Now, what is he doing? He is an endless birth in endless time. So as we say, there is no end to time. The time has been, since the beginning, it was time, and we don't know when it will end or not end. He is an endless birth in endless time. So long as time is, he will keep on taking birth, endless births, because it's his creation. Time is his creation. Space is his creation. So how can he abandon time and space? And her finite's multitude. So Prakriti creates forms, and the forms are infinite. If we look from the beginning of existence, so many different multitudinous forms, and there is no end. Even if we talk about the species of plants, species of animals that have been there, the scientists keep on finding out more and more and more that are there. It's just that we slowly, in our limited mind, we get proofs that yes, there was this also, this species was also there. Okay, this species was also there. Endless number of species. have been there before us and still exist parallelly with us, but we are not aware of them. And he keeps on enjoying this multitude of the finite forms in an infinite space. There is no end to this universe. Even if when we talk about physics, we see that time after time, newer galaxies have been found. Okay, this galaxy, see these many billion light years away. So we have never reached the end of universe. That's amazing thing. That will, and how it's also parallel with our own being, that our own being seems limited, that okay, this is my body, this is where it ends, this is where it starts. But the more we go deeper into the body, the more we see that there is no end. Try growing deeper into your heart. You can go deeper and deeper, and you will never reach a border, that here my heart ends. And that is how appearances deceive, that the body appears to be limited, and yet I go deeper in my being, I see that there is no limit. And just like that, matter appears to be limited, but the deeper I go into matter, as if we cannot reach a wall, that okay, here things end. That's the beauty. So infinite space and endless time. Yeah, please keep sharing reflections if you have any at any moment of time. Else we'll just go ahead. Yeah, so anyone who feels ready.
I can read. Can you hear me?
Yes, Riddhi. Please.
The master of existence lurks in us and plays at hide and seek with his own force. In nature's instrument, loiters secret God. The immanent lives in man as in his house. He has made the universe his pastimes field, a vast gymnasium of his works of might.
Yeah, thank you. So on what he's just shared, the only one in his lone eternity, and that who only is, it just reminded me of a Kabir song. I'm going to share it on the screen. Yeah, this one, maybe some of you may have heard of it. It's called Yugan Yugan Hum Yogi. So this is in Hindi, where he shares, and I'll read it in English since most of us can understand English. For ages and ages, I have been a yogi. O wanderer, for ages and ages, I have been a yogi. I don't come or go. I never disappear. I enjoy the endless sound. O wanderer, for ages and ages, I have been a yogi. Everywhere I see my community. Everywhere I meet them. I am in all are in mine. I am alone and together. I am the realized one. I am realization itself. I am silent, I speak. I show outer form, inner form, no form. I play within myself. Kabir says, listen, friend. I have no desire. I sway myself in my hut. I play simply to please myself. O wanderer, for ages and ages I have been a yogi. So this is, what we were reading here. I play simply to please myself. That nature, whatever she does, is for the delight of the Purusha. And when we talk about the egoistic state, we just take things too seriously in that particular limited consciousness. We take really everything becomes too serious. And once we touch this, that hey, that this is a leela going on, a play going on. Why am I taking things so seriously? Let me just do my job and forget the rest. So it makes just things lighter if we go through this. Yeah.
Very beautiful, Monica.
Yeah.
Yeah, especially that line. No, I play myself with, what is that line? Actually, I play
Yeah.
myself. Yeah.
I play
I
simply
play
to please
simply to
myself.
please myself. Yeah, if you can compare this line here,
Yeah.
in nature's instrument, loiters, secret God. Yeah.
Mm.
Because that loiters is a line of a very common note.
Playfulness.
Yeah, roaming. Yeah.
Beautiful.
It's very beautiful. Yeah, very beautiful. I play simply to please myself. Yeah. Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you for bringing this.
Yes. Yeah. Thank you. So this is what I wanted to bring in the middle, and there are more things which I want to add on today, but let's see the lines come up, then I'll share. So the master of existence lurks in us. When we talk about lurking is hiding, like you're lurking behind the curtain, for example, lurking around the corner. So not completely visible, like in hide and seek mode. The master of existence lurks in us and plays at hide and seek with his own force. Now, who are the two in picture? Nature and the Supreme Purusha. The two who are one, actually. Now, where do we come into picture? That's the question I think I earlier also was sharing in the previous session to reflect upon. That can we reflect upon this? That if God and Prakriti are playing the play for their own delight, where do I come into picture? That is a question one must ask, I feel. In nature's instrument, loiters secret God. The immanent lives in man as in his house. That's what Mother shares again and again. That go dig deeper within and unite with the inner Godhead. Else, what a waste of human life. What a waste of human life. Because if you are a king and you keep on sitting on your treasure and live like a beggar, what's the point of you being a king? And all of us are kings in actuality, are enlightened in actuality, but we don't know. So what's the fun? Life becomes a misery, life becomes a struggle. So the immanent, the one indwelling, the one dwelling within, the immanent lives in man as in his own house, his house. He has made the universe his pastimes field. What is a pastime? Which we are doing for a fun of it. It's not that I'm going to get something out of it. Like I do college because I can get a job. But pastime is when I just have time at hand and I'm doing something for the fun of it. That is a pastime. So the Supreme One, he has made the universe his pastimes field. We can actually laugh about it, that if it is just a pastime, what is really the problem with us? A vast gymnasium of his works of might. So in a gymnasium, what do? We muscle, we kind of strengthen our muscles and work on ourselves. It's play also, and it's fun also, and it's building our own strength. That's what he's doing. And that's what Mother shares also. Mother also shares that, and Sri Aurobindo through these lines, that the Supreme One, like us, with us as a psychic being, he evolves, gaining strength through all the experiences of Prakriti. So it's like a gymnasium for him. Every challenge, okay, let me go through it, gather strength, get in touch with more deeper strength. Another challenge comes, okay, let me go through it. So like this, the psychic being ripens and matures. So he's using it as a gymnasium. Okay, give me more challenge. Acha, not little less challenge. Now I'm capable of more. Okay, so then the Prakriti gives more, even a bigger challenge. So that I become more in touch with my deeper and deeper strength. A vast gymnasium of his works of might. So anything anyone wants to add on here? Okay, so we go ahead in that case. Keep sharing if you have anything. So the lines in yellow, if anyone would like to read.
All-knowing, he accepts our darkened state. Divine, wears shapes of animal or man. Eternal, he assents to fate and time. Immortal, dallies with mortality.
Yeah, thank you. So now look at this paradox of truth. The one who is all-knowing, he has accepted our darkened state. Now look at our own consciousness, how limited it is, how we struggle with our ignorance. We try to understand things, but we can't. And who is doing this? The Supreme Purusha himself. He has put on himself a cloak of ignorance. Why? Because it's fun. Okay, let me go through this ignorance. What is this ignorance? So and what is the cloak made of? Let us ask. What is the cloak made of? Of course, his own self. Because when there is nothing but himself, what is ignorance made of? Ignorance is also made out of his own stuff. So I want to share at this point some teaching by Rupert Spira, where he shares, a person is asking the presence, why is suffering there? He's asking, what is the need of suffering? And then he's sharing how the divine consciousness, or the consciousness that only is, when it localizes itself into a person, when it kind of narrows itself down into a being, then the price it has to pay for that narrowness is the ignorance. Ignorance is the price it pays to be limited. Because see, imagine that there is only Brahman. Now, how can I become an individual? How can I enjoy the delight of being an individual if I'm still the Brahman? So I will have to let go of some or the other piece. I will have to let go of my freedom. I'll have to let go of my all-wise character, all-knowing character. At least in appearance, it would appear that I've let go of it. And in my ignorance, I become that individual. So Rupert Spira here shares that the price that universal consciousness pays in order to become limited is the price that we suffer. And why we suffer? Because we don't know. We don't know the larger picture. So that's the price we pay. So it will become more clear, I hope, when he shares. Let me just put the screen on. Just a second. Okay, so I'll just share the screen now and share sound also. I think you'll be able to hear this. Okay, I'll do full screen. Yeah, so the question has been asked, why is suffering there? What is the use of suffering in this existence? And this is what he shares.
No, not actually, not even why is not okay.
Because when infinite consciousness contracts into each of our finite minds, as it must do if it wants to manifest itself as the world, this apparent contraction of itself into a finite mind is accompanied by a contraction or a diminishing of the happiness that is inherent within it. And therefore inherent in each of our minds is this absence or lack of happiness. In other words, the absence of happiness or the experience of suffering is the price consciousness pays for manifestation.
Yeah, so those who are interested, maybe you can listen to the whole clip later on YouTube, it's available. But I found it extremely resonating with what is being shared here in Savitri. And at other points also, what Sri Aurobindo shares, all knowing, he accepts our darkened state. Divine, wears shapes of animal or man. Eternal, he assents to fate and time. Immortal, he dallies or plays with mortality. And why is he doing this? For the fun of it, for the delight of it, because he has nothing to lose. He has nothing to lose. Because all, when it is only divine, what has he got to lose? It's a play happening within himself. And that's where we come to the playfulness of the divine. And as egos, we take it too seriously. But the divine, and that is what we see in highly enlightened beings. If you have ever been, in touch, either through their talks or, through their presence, that they have this, along with the sincerity. It's not that they are frivolously playful all the time. Along with sincerity, they also have a humor or a playfulness, that take it easy. And there is a paradox again, that you cannot completely kind of kick at it, because there is a work to be done. And yet there is a playfulness that don't worry. Don't take things too seriously. Yeah. So and this is how the all conscious ventured into ignorance. The all conscious ventured into ignorance. The all blissful bore to be insensible. So the one who is nothing but delight, how is he behaving? He's behaving like a stone now, as if he doesn't sense anything. He's absolutely insensible to all the sensations. So that's the appearance that he takes. The all conscious ventured into ignorance. And why I can do that? I can do that because I know I am all conscious. So who can stop me from venturing into ignorance? We often, that, for example, there is a good swimmer, and he knows water pretty well. He's very one with the water. He would not stop himself going into deep trenches and whatever people may be scared of going. Why? Because he's one with the water. But if I don't know the water, then I will be scared. Oh my God, how can I go into such a deep trench? What if something happens to me? These kind of thoughts can arise in me. So the one who is all knowing, all conscious, he can easily step into ignorance. He has no problem with that, because nothing can define him. So when we do not, I also relate this with, when we do not put images on ourselves that I am a respectable person, or I'm this, or I'm that, then I'm not even worrying about whether I may appear foolish. Okay, let me be fool. Who cares? So not to buy into our images that from time to time keep on creating in our limited mind. So here, that's why, because since he's all free, it's his own creation. The all conscious ventured into ignorance. The all blissful, he bore to be insensible. He can manage that because he has nothing to lose. He can enjoy this play. So let us go through these lines. Please keep sharing if you have any reflection. Yeah, anyone who feels ready. Okay, so
I can't see the
yeah. Oh, I'm so
yeah,
sorry.
screen.
Just a second.
Yeah.
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 Yeah, this one, the
In-
incarnate. Yeah.
Yeah, incarnate in a world of strife and pain, he puts on joy and sorrow like a robe and drinks experience like lightning wine. He whose transcendence rules the pregnant vast, prescient now dwells in our subliminal depths, a luminous individual power alone.
Yeah, thank you. Incarnate in a world of strife and pain. So he's incarnated. He's taken birth in a world full of strife and pain. It's not that he has left the creation to itself. Okay, I'm done with the creation. Now the creation is responsible for its own self. So it's not that disconnect between the creator and the creation. The creator is one with the creation at any moment of time. That's the beauty. It's just that we have to find it for ourselves, that actually he's one. He's not left us, abandoned ourselves, abandoned his children. Incarnate in a world of strife and pain, he puts on joy and sorrow like a robe. So he puts on, because he knows that he has nothing to lose. So he says, okay, joy today, fine. Sorrow today, okay, fine. Like a robe, he puts it on. And drinks experience like a strengthening wine. Like as we were sharing earlier, the psychic being grows through all the experiences of life. So each experience, which to our limited mind may appear a bad experience, good experience, we categorize experiences into categories. Okay, this is a spiritual experience, this is a non-spiritual experience. But for him, for the evolving Purusha, for the psychic being, all experience is just experience. And with each, he has some essence that he takes. And it ripens him, it matures him. And drinks experience like a strengthening wine. So each experience is like a strengthening wine, which is making him more and more stronger. It's connecting with deeper and deeper strength, divine strength, as Mother says. He whose transcendence rules the pregnant vasts, prescient now, dwells in our subliminal depths. So the one who is the ruler of as far as you can see and as long as you can go, he is the ruler of all. And pregnant vasts, those vasts, those empty, silent vasts, out of which everything springs out. All powers, everything in manifestation springs out from that vast, pregnant, full of potential. He who is the ruler of all this, he is dwelling in our subliminal depths. Deep in ourselves he dwells. And that's why Mother says, go deeper within. Because on the surface, you will always be in touch with the surface personality. Thoughts are coming, feelings are coming, okay, this is happening, that is happening, always on the surface. But the deeper we go in our being, we get in touch with this all-knowing presence which is dwelling within. Prescient means he has a foreknowing. He knows the events before the outer mind can see it. But we are not in touch with that. So we are just usually one with the outer mind, outer vital. So we completely feel lost in this big, huge world. Why do we feel lost? Because we are just not in touch with the deeper king that is residing inside. And the more we detach from the outer thoughts and feelings, and when will we be able to detach? Only when we know that I will not get anything here. So this realization has to dawn, that I have swimmed enough in thoughts and feelings, surface, dwellings. I have dwelled enough. I have not gotten, my hands are still empty. I have not gotten much out of it. So let me now detach. Only then we can see those thoughts and feelings as vain mirages. Otherwise, everything appears very, very crucial. Okay, let me attend to this thought. Let me attend to this feeling. Very, very important, very crucial. But once we have done that for a long time, only then we can be ready to detach from them. So the outer game is going on. The ripples are there on the surface, just like ocean is there, and on the surface there are ripples. All the time, some or the other activity is going on the surface. And yet, I leave that surface and I go deeper within. Staying with the breath, clinging to the breath, staying as awareness, I detach from the surface flow of thoughts. And when I do that, it's not an impossibility that I don't get in touch with the deeper self, the subliminal being, which knows, which is not like the limited mind, which tries to know. So the prescient, he's now, as prescient presence, he's dwelling in our subliminal depths. A luminous individual power alone. Alone, also comes again and again in these lines. Again, also forward, as we go forward, he will be using alone again. I think to me, it also stressed upon that there is nothing but him. So it also kinds of put me back on track whenever I'm getting swayed that, oh my God, I have to follow a spiritual path. And these things are not letting me follow a spiritual path. Just give an example. Then to realize that even in these things which are not letting me follow a spiritual path, he is the only one which is there, who is there. Can I just see him? I just need good eyes. The vision needs to be corrected. And then everything becomes the path. All challenges, even non-spiritual stuff becomes the path. Yeah. A luminous individual power alone. That alone is. There is nothing but him. Yeah. And in other words, we can also say that I think Rupert Spira also stresses upon it that there is nothing but consciousness. Rest everything as is like how they say pearls on a thread. So all the appearances are like pearls on the thread. And what is the thread? The thread is of thread of consciousness, the thread of awareness. So what I have to do, my job is to become this thread. It's not that I'm not this thread, but I don't know that I am this thread. And in my case of mistaken identity, I take myself for thought or a feeling or my story or past or future. And in that I suffer more. So when I know myself as the thread on which all the pearls can come and go, then I don't suffer knowingly. Pain may be there, but pain is another pearl on the thread. So let us maybe take 5-4 lines more and then we can end for today. Yeah, anyone?
Can I? Hello?
Yes, please. Yes.
Yeah. The absolute, the perfect, the alone has called out of the silence his mute force, where she lay in the featureless and formless hush, guarding from time by her immobile sleep, the ineffable puissance of his solitude. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. The absolute, the perfect, the alone has called out of the silence his mute force. The one who only is. What has he done? He has manifested, he has called out, which was already hidden in himself, this force. He has called out of himself this mute force. That which was lying immobile and resting within him only has called out of the silence his mute force. So in another way, Sri Aurobindo here gives us this secret knowledge. In several ways he has explained this. And now he says that the absolute, the one who only is, he is called out of silence his mute force, where she lay in the featureless and formless hush. So She was there within him, but she was not manifested. Now he has manifested out of himself, that force, Divine Mother, where she lay in the featureless and formless hush, guarding from time by her immobile sleep, the ineffable puissance of his solitude. So what she was doing is, she was guarding, she was acting like a guard by laying immobile in himself. She was acting like a guard to protect his ineffable power. Now she is let go of that guard. Now she is out, manifested out. So where she was featureless and formless hush, she was guarding from time by her immobile sleep, the ineffable puissance of his solitude. She was protecting his solitude, like by laying immobile hush, totally silent, not telling what all can come out of her. And it also continues further, the same series. So as we go ahead, I think we'll get a bit more idea of this. So just the last 4 or 5 lines more, and then we can stop. Yeah, anyone who would like to read?
May I read, madam?
Yes, please.
The absolute, the perfect, the alone has entered with his silence into space. He has fashioned these countless persons of oneself. He has built a million figures of his power. He lives in all who lived in his vast alone. Space is himself, and time is only he. Thank you, madam.
Thank you. So now this absolute, the one who only is, the perfect, the alone, with his silence, with his pregnant silence, which, and usually, the power or the appearance with the problem with silence is that many a times in noise, we don't see that silence is. We just only see noise. Oh my God, there is too much of noise. But where is the noise happening? The noise is happening in the silence. Silence has taken a back seat. Just like when we talk of monsoon clouds over a blue sky. The blue sky has taken a back seat so that the clouds can play in the sky. So he has entered with his silence into space. So wherever we see, there is this background of space, and the space is absolutely silent. And it is so silent that it does not, we usually ignore it. Usually completely ignore it. Because there is hardly any property out loud which we see. He has entered with his silence into space. He has fashioned these countless persons of oneself. Billions and trillions of human beings come and go. And in all, who is coming? He himself is coming. He's fashioned these countless persons of oneself. He has built a million figures of his power. He has allowed himself to be run by Prakriti. Millions of formulations, millions of different figures. He lives in all, but he has not abandoned the creation. That's what we were again and again coming to, that he has not abandoned the creation. In each aspect of creation, he is. In Ishavasya Upanishad, I think also this comes out very strongly, that the Lord made the world for himself, and the whole creation is for the habitation of Lord. So there is no point in creation where we can say, okay, here the divine is not. It's not that the divine is only in temples. The divine is also in the drain and is also in the pig, equivalently as in the cow. So he has built a million figures of his power. He lives in all who lived in his vast alone. So the one who was earlier dwelling completely in his vast, absorbed, self-absorbed there, he now has accepted to be living in millions of forms. This can be also seen in another way, that behind every thought is a subtle form, feeling is a subtle form. Behind every thought is the knowing of a thought. And the knowing is usually ignored. We don't focus on the knowing. Just like we don't focus on the gaps between two thoughts, the space between two thoughts, or the gap between two breaths. Our focus is mostly on the breath. So the background knowing, the consciousness which is all pervading, that is completely ignored, and that is why the word ignorance. So it's not that the divine is not there each moment, but I'm so busy with the outer that I completely ignore his presence. And that's why, as we have shared earlier also many times, when we talk about enlightenment, it's just a revelation, as if the curtain fell. So the essence was always there, but there was the curtains of ignorance. I was ignoring. But the moment I stop ignoring, the realization happens. So he who lived in his vast alone, the knowing or the consciousness, now he allows itself to be screened. He allows himself to be obscured by the images and forms. He lives in all who lived in the vast alone. Space is himself and time is only he. So when we talk of time, we talk of thought. What is time? Thought. Can thought be if there is no time? So time and thought go parallelly. And what is he saying here? He is saying time is only he. So the thought is only he. And space, when we talk of space, space is form. We have matter and we have form. So all the form is also himself. And when we, even this last line, if we reflect upon this, that it can make our life holy and sacred. We then don't give more priority to this work and less priority to the other work. Because when space is himself and time is only he, then who can I ignore really? What can I really ignore? Everything is him, the divine. And that's what Mother says. Mother says that whatever you are doing, you put a drop of true consciousness there. Just do it with an act of servitude, because whatever act you are doing is a holy act. And only two things can happen. Either you do the work more beautifully, and if you realize that the work is not really worth doing, then you stop doing. When we put a drop of true consciousness. So that's the beauty of becoming conscious about our work, whatever you are doing. Yeah, any reflections here? Anyone?
Yeah, Monica, this is a marvelous passage actually. Yeah, in Savitri, every line is a mantric line, of course, but some are special. So all these lines, coming lines also, very beautiful and wonderful lines, especially mantric lines seems actually. In MP Pandit book, he said, Sri Aurobindo explains why he repeats the same words after a few lines. It is the avriti, the purposive repetition of a word, a phrase or a line in order to create and recreate the same grooves in the reader's consciousness, in which the truth expressed can dig itself in. It is in his introduction to his 8 Upanishads, Sri Aurobindo explains the rationale of avidity, which is so characteristic of Indian scriptures, the refrain of particular phrase. So again, the absolute, the perfect, the alone. He's repeating 3 times, no? Again and again. That
Beautiful,
is the reason.
beautiful.
Yeah,
Yeah.
this is the reason it seems.
Thank you for sharing. Yeah, beautiful. There's also something which in relation to this, he shares, in his thoughts and aphorisms. This, here, if you can see the screen.
Yeah.
God and nature are like a boy and girl at play and in love. They hide and run from each other when glimpsed, so that they may be sought after and chased and captured. Man is God hiding himself from nature, so that he may possess her by struggle, insistence, violence, and surprise. God is universal and transcendent man, hiding himself from his own individuality in the human being. So if you are interested, you can look this up. It's found in Incarnate World. Yeah. Very interesting. Yeah, thank you for sharing that, Chitra ji. That was really beautiful.
Yeah.
And it also shares with us that how in Indian scriptures, again and again, one thing comes, repeatedly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
In so many words, Aham Brahmasmi, yes. So many words that they repeat that. Yeah.
Yeah. Great. Thank you. Thank you, everyone. Thank you for joining today.
It's a beautiful.
Thank you.
Thank
Yeah.
you.
Very profound.
Yeah.
Also.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye.
Madam, you cannot keep this one at 3 o'clock, madam?
Yes, we can. You would like to come at 3?
Yes, 3 o'clock is a better, this one we can accommodate that one.
Okay, let me think about it. Actually, many a times it was happening that I had sessions at 4:15 or so I changed the time. But nowadays we can manage 3 also. I'll put it in the WhatsApp group and ask other people if they are okay.
Okay,
Yeah.
madam.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
All right. Thank you, Monica. Bye.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.